if there is a sharp knife pressing into my hand, and let's call it pain, if I resist it and hate it and want it gone, I stick the knife deeper in my hand, try to push it away, okay? Deeper. Now, if I relax my hand, okay, it's a totally different experience. Now, this is like the ABC of dealing with pain, not focusing on the pain, but focusing what you do against the pain. Because the general attitude of people is pain is the enemy. Pain is bad. Pain is the devil. When people are experiencing pain, they immediately contract and stop breathing. Those two actions push the knife more into the body because you take away the respiration, the person doesn't breathe. All his body doesn't have enough energy to deal with the pain. He contracts muscles, he blocks the energy flow in the body. Now the pain can only accumulate.
My guest today, Avi Grinberg, is a deep practitioner. He started as a paramedic and traveled around the world to learn from different indigenous healers. I was particularly excited to talk to Avi because in my own journey of exploring pain, I've come to a set of intuitions that's hard to articulate about the role of awareness and how we generate the pain in our own way. When I saw Avi speak, I felt there was a deep connection, that we were coming from the same place and seeing things. And so naturally I reached out to have a conversation. While I might not agree with all of Avi's conclusions, I found a lot to learn from him in this conversation, and I hope you will too. Enjoy. So today I'm talking to Avi Grinberg, who's a somatic teacher and creator of the Grinberg method. In their words, the Grinberg method is a structured way of teaching through the body, using touch, breath, movement, physical exercises, descriptive tools and techniques, and it's all about attention. So I would like to begin by asking you, what is the first moment you felt you could help someone heal? Could you tell that story?
So in my history, I was a paramedic for a long time. So the actual actions of doing things like that support healing, like from bandaging to others, I did for quite some time. But my first experience was actually a life-endangering experience. I walked with my girlfriend then in the desert, and she broke her foot. And we were like very long away from a place with water, and we were two, and there is no way I could carry her for long, and the water won't last. So this is really a perfect situation to learn to do something you never did before, because you now have to do it, and you have to find the resources to do it.
And was this a casual hike? Was this in Israel?
It was in a desert in Israel, yes. And it was, I don't know if it was a long hike through a wonderful canyon and quite an abandoned area at that time. So no help and no satellite phones. It was like more than 50 years ago or something. And I did already many things that were focused on attention and intention that were not connected to healing, but to really practicing from meditation to other things that I learned then before. So I put my hands on her foot and I went into the deepest silence that I could. I asked her to try to do the same, and I focused my intention and attention on that place under my hands. And I asked her to relax, to breathe, all the things that I knew how to do. After 15 minutes, I took off my hands and she could walk. I personally didn't believe that what was happening was happening. It looked to me like from fiction. But the more I started to really use the most basic things that we can, like becoming silent, being relaxed, focusing attention not on myself but on someone else, breathing in a way that my body gets full of energy, already this is an act that supports the healing of someone else because their body feels it and responds. Okay, and this response is what I would call healing, not what I did, but how she responded.
So she twisted her ankle really badly or broke her foot. while stepping on
No,
something?
not twisted her ankle. She broke one of the metatarsus, one of that leads to the big toe. After the hike, she had to go into a cast for 3 weeks. It wasn't healed. She could survive. She could walk. Okay, it wasn't like perfect kind of healing and everything was like before. No, no, there was definitely a treatment afterwards, but she could walk 5 kilometers with this, which was a lot in the sand.
And it saved her life in that way.
And mine as well, because I was with her. So the water, I could just take the water and escape, but it won't look so nice.
And so how did that moment change what you did from then on?
I don't know if that moment, because there was a series of things. Okay. Parallel to that, I was working in an emergency room while learning in the university. And I was working nights in the emergency room, and my experience as a paramedic gave me real active role in there. Okay. And many times, especially with pain, I would do the same. I would close my eyes, breathe, relax, pay attention to the person, ask them to do it together with me. And I saw many times the level of pain reduced dramatically. And this encouraged me to see what else can be done with pain.
So as a paramedic, people would come in with these really serious injuries, and is it usually in a life-threatening condition, or what was it like to be a paramedic for you?
Think of somebody, a motorcyclist that broke his leg in 4 places, and it's life endangering unless he gets immediate treatment. But let's say till he gets the treatment, because they will not give him anything to reduce pain till it's clear what is the damage. Okay? Because they don't want to mask symptoms. If there is internal injuries, etc., you wait with your pain till the x-rays, the other tests will come back that will see that we can really deal just with pain. Okay?
Wow.
So at that time, I could sit with them and do something that instead of screaming, they could now relax more and breathe more. It was still painful, but it wasn't how horrible it was before. What I learned is that most people have no idea how to experience pain, that they fight with it and they try to invent everything possible not to experience it directly. And this is very clear in an emergency room. The first thing people they want when they come in, give me something for the pain, give me something for the pain. And a lot of people get addicted to painkillers because it's like a miracle. You're in pain, you take something, you shoot something, you whatever, and it's gone. Okay, so it's miraculous, but it's a miracle that costs a lot and does a lot of damage also. So in cases of intense pain like this, okay, of course the painkiller should come because the person cannot deal with 4 broken places. But till it happened, I could see that to have some control over the intensity. Just to give you an image, if there is a sharp knife pressing into my hand, and let's call it pain, if I resist it and hate it and want it gone, I stick the knife deeper in my hand, try to push it away, okay? Deeper. Now, if I relax my hand, okay, it's a totally different experience. Now, this is like the ABC of dealing with pain, not focusing on the pain, but focusing what you do against the pain. Because the general attitude of people is pain is the enemy. Pain is bad. Pain is the devil. Pain shouldn't happen. I should be pain-free. And those kind of beliefs, attitudes, and responses, because what happens when people are experiencing pain? They immediately contract and stop breathing. Those two actions push the knife more into the body because you take away the respiration, the person doesn't breathe. All his body doesn't have enough energy to deal with the pain. He contracts muscles, he blocks the energy flow in the body. Now the pain can only accumulate. So from the beginning, what is missing for people is a basic education of you will have pain in life, guaranteed. Okay? I can guarantee you pain till you die. in different forms, in different levels, in different shapes, but the fate of people, part of being human, is to experience pain from loss, separation, traumas, accidents. Everything can hurt you.
So you're now obviously not a paramedic and not directly connected to the medical
It's been
system.
many years, many years. It was like 45 years ago, yes.
But what do you feel like is still with you from the paramedic experience, from the medical perspective?
Not on the medical perspective, but on a personal perspective, the ability to move very fast without hesitation. Okay? And this is useful even in my today's work, the ability to change direction. Something is discovered, something is happening, instead of gaping at it and be froze, to immediately act. Okay? Because in a life-saving situation, the faster you are, the more clear you are, your actions are focused, you have better chances to save life. So this stays with me, the ability to shift into this kind of mode that doesn't have internal dialogue, and it's very clear and very powerful to do just what is needed to do. But in terms of medicine, since I don't see myself as a healer, and the people that come to me, I don't try to save them, the clients or the students that come to me don't need saving. They need to learn to deal with their pain. And it's not a simple thing. The idea is simple. You are going to have pain. You are already painful. Anybody you'll meet carries some old pains with him that he never completed and never finished. So,
what do you mean by completing pain? You see pain as a movement that is arrested, stuck in someone's system. Is that what I hear?
Movement and energy, it's not just the movement, it's the energy that tries to move, that is stuck and accumulated. Let's say you lost somebody and you never really agreed to experience the pain fully. The effort to keep the pain down and that it will not bother you, that it will not hurt you, that it will not make you sad. This effort is in your control. The choice to disconnect, you may not be aware that you're doing it because it's almost automatic. Most people do this from pain and no, thank you. Okay, somebody else should have that. Okay, but this kind of retreat from pain, trying to disconnect, like you immediately try to go into your head and run somewhere and disappear. Some people manage to shift their attention out of their bodies completely and feel nothing, total disconnection. Now, they look at it as a gift, but you cannot do it for long. Okay, and it's very exhausting to do something like this. You have to like throw your attention out of yourself. And this is very tiring. And when you come back, the pain is doubled because the effort of throwing yourself out of the pain meant that you burned a lot of energy doing this.
And you also lose the capacity to connect with the embodied emotions and relate to people, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm curious, when I hear you say that the reflex to tighten when brought to pain is not helpful, it seems that it's truest to say it's not helpful when you do it for a long, long time. But if your hand touches a stove, it is actually very helpful to go like, and contract.
Yeah,
There's
but you
chronic pain
contract
stuckness.
and relax. You contract and relax. You don't stay contracted.
Right. So the chronic pain, I hear you saying, your understanding is there's this movement and this energy that takes this initial flinch response and it's continuing to hold it in our body.
Yes. And by daily practice, okay, think of somebody with a pain in his shoulder, okay? So he has pain in his shoulder. He doesn't like that. It bothers him. So he raises it a bit.
Yeah.
And for a while, it feels better. So he contracted here and he holds his shoulder. In 3 weeks, it will be like this. And then he will develop another pain in the arm because all the flow to the arm is now blocked. So he will raise his elbow a bit because he wants not to feel that. So he ends up this. Now, if he relaxes this and relaxes the elbow, what he'll have is some pain that has now a chance to move. Because once you are actually contracting your muscles, you block the flow on all levels. It's not just a muscle contracting. This is thinking that separates the body into different kind of categories. No, muscles contract means blood vessels, means nerves, means all the action and the activity there. It all reduces the quality of it. So let's say I got hurt here. I do that. I don't allow the body to heal.
I want to get more into the pain stuff, but first I'm really curious about what first brought you out of the paramedics and into interaction with the shamans in South America and the Middle East.
I was very interested at that time in healing, and I went to see what was then pre-New Age, what is called healing. So it usually was natives, aborigines, Bedouins, Indians. You don't call them Indians, it doesn't matter, but people that belonged to cultures that were not civilized, okay, not modernly civilized. These people maintained traditions of thousands of years in all kinds of styles. Those that interested me were dealing with the attention and how to use the body to heal, not to give it things, not to do things to it, but through practices like a kind of meditation, a kind of movement, because I also did some martial arts in the past and other kind of movement, breathing kind of things that give energy to the body. So I went from that direction, the mystical, but very pragmatic, very realistic, very body-like.
What kind of martial arts were you practicing?
I started very young at 16, 15, I don't remember. I was doing karate then. And then I moved a bit into Aikido, into Kung Fu. But at some age, I could see that I either do what I am really interested in, this direction that I'm still in 50 years later, or I go completely into martial arts. And the martial arts world then, so many years ago, was a very small and dull kind of world with not many possibilities where I grew up. But to learn what I did, mean traveling to all kinds of weird places, meeting amazing, strange people, different beliefs, different behaviors. It was much more interesting than repeating the same movement a million times in the dojo.
Yeah. Can you paint the picture of the first shaman that you met that felt like had a real influence on you?
First of all, by the way, between us, shaman is a Siberian kind of title. The people I met in South America or the Bedouins would never call themselves this.
Okay,
They
yeah.
would call
What term?
themselves
Yeah.
healers, curanderos in Spanish, but shaman is really like not really fitting. The people that I met didn't wear all kinds of costume. It was not for tourists.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, the first one was very, very scary. I came to him speaking very little Portuguese that I knew, and I asked him to learn what he does to heal because he was doing very impressive things. I saw the people that went to him, and he really scared the shit out of me because he looked at everything jungle style. Life or death. You see, I came from a martial culture and wars, etc., but it was like organized things, okay? Not jungle everyday dangers, etc. So I had to live for a while in conditions because I come from a desert. Suddenly I found myself in a jungle. I was seeing snakes under every plant. And the whole process of doing something meant a lot of doing nothing in a very kind of dangerous environment that was very, very scary because the danger I met, usually you could run away from it or dig deep and cover yourself till it passes. So there was nothing like that. And the person himself had zero pity for others. You came to learn to be strong. You didn't come to learn to be good. He had no concept of good. Okay? The way in the Western world look at healing as something good and loving and hugging and mutsi and all of this. But healing is not at all like this. To really get healed by someone means you have to go through what you didn't want to go through, like pain, like terror, like horrible things you experience. And you cannot heal unless you are complete with those things. So that person was amazing, but he woke up in me fear like I never felt before, which was ultimately very useful, because if you have no choice but to relax into the fear, fear starts to teach you what he has to teach you.
So this was in the Amazon.
Yeah, about, yes.
And how long were you there?
It was almost 50 years ago, okay? And since then, I had many other adventures, but I think I spent there about 3 months, and I almost died a few times from dysentery, from all kinds of nice kind of illnesses that are, for somebody not used to the jungle, I'm lucky to survive. But all of this, all in all, gave me one very clear lesson, that it's all about how we perceive reality, that it's all about how we perceive our body, that it's all about the amount of energy you can bring into that perception, because the energy and the perception go together and enhance each other. So I left from there knowing that what I'm doing is a journey that aims to collect attention and energy. And I look at people through my methodology as attention and energy combined that creates a life. So that was the lesson. It took all kinds of other things to happen, and that I will get how to translate it into pragmatism.
I'm curious if you felt that there was cultural differences between the, can I call them healers from these different regions, or these teachers? Because on the bio it mentions both South America and also the Bedouins. What was difference between them, or similarities too?
The similarities were lack of pity.
Pity is also not the same as empathy, right?
No, not really. They were warm people and very empathic, but they looked at you. This is your fate. This is your life. This is your pain. Okay, that's it. There is no, oh, poor you, and let's bring you flowers and chocolates and all this kind of. We try to help you suffer less. They don't do. Okay, you suffer. Learn to suffer well. There is no effort to not have or not be. Okay? There is no effort to make it nicer. There is no effort to make it softer and gentler and less direct. Not at all. So they were very, very, very different people, not just in language and behavior, but it's both very tough life. Okay, whether it's sand or the trees, okay, you have constantly to have your attention outside. And this is mostly what I got from them ultimately, is Western people that grew and got civilized learn to shift their attention inside. You look at most people's eyes and you can see that they are looking inside, they're not looking outside. We are constantly busy with internal dialogue, with what we say to ourselves about ourselves and how we answer that, and we remember and making connections. We have an incredible active perception inside our head, and that it's all about us. Okay, the I is king. Okay, so these people didn't talk to themselves. Okay, they were just in reality. The difference is huge. It's unbelievable. So on one hand, they didn't talk to themselves. The other hand, everything was funny. Everything, they took nothing seriously. They were not too guilty and too humiliated. There was nothing too big or too small. Or all these kind of games of self-importance, they just didn't have, which is an incredible relief. So it reminds me of Freud that visited an island somewhere with natives that didn't get civilized yet. And he came shocked out of it and said, they have no ego. Forget ego, nobody's using this term anymore, but they don't talk to themselves. They don't look at the I as the center of the universe. They are paying attention to the world around them.
Have you come across this book, The Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind by Julian Jaynes?
No.
It's about this. He looks at old texts of the Odyssey and the Iliad, and he does this close analysis, and he basically argues that the whole I and internal thought and monologue came about only in the 1200s to 1500s after writing. And he says that the Greeks also don't have this internal conception. All of
Yes.
thoughts are the talking to God or to Minerva, to whoever. And it sounds very similar to what you're saying about the indigenous people here.
We can take it a step further. If you look at the Romans and you look at how they wrote what happened, they were incredibly descriptive. Okay, if you read Julius Caesar, he describes his journey to England. There is only description. There is no opinion. There is no, I didn't like it, or I thought it was like that. There is no explanations. There is no excuses. This is it. And yes, it changed after, I don't know exactly when, I'm not an historian, but I can see the shift also in the books that I read. The older books were just descriptive. They wrote the is. It's like paintings. In the past, they just painted the is. Today, you can do anything and call it a painting. There is no longer a necessity to deal with reality. We can create alternate realities, fantastic realities, weird realities, and as if they're real.
Back to the relationship with these indigenous healers, teachers. For you, was it a discrete moment when you went and you were there and you learned from them? Or were there some of the teachers that you continued to correspond with for a longer period?
These people don't correspond. You have to find them, which is very difficult. And they don't maintain this kind of apprentice kind of relationship. This is, again, very Western kind of concept. No, I came, I was there, they did things, I went, everything went on. You see, the mind that continues kind of, and the story continues. No, there was a period, something happened, we move on. It's the mentality of nomads, okay? You ask about, okay, the teacher was street next to you, you could go and meet him every Friday for the next 20 years. No, okay, who knows where they were a month after I left.
It's almost part of a mythos of going out and seeking, and it's incredible. And I would be curious to hear if you're open to sharing how you found one of the particular teachers.
It was luck.
Luck.
Also with the Bedouin teacher that I had, it was luck. Somebody told me about him. I went to visit him for something personal and wanting to get to know him. He was a Muslim mystic, okay? He was belonging to a Sufi kind of sect, and he was doing something also very spiritual, and he was a faith healer, basically. So when I came, he did something with my name and find all kinds of things about me that were very impressive, okay? He was using, in Kabbalism, it's called Gematria. It's the words and numbers, the letters and numbers that show you things about the person. So it was very accurate. And then I was already working, doing my beginning of stuff. And then he said, I can see that you deal very well with pain. He had no way to know it, okay? And I said, yes, this is my work. And he said, okay, I'll put something on the floor that you can work on. And those people that come to me with pain, you fix them. I said, okay. Let's see what he does. And it was very interesting. They would come to him, they talk about, I have a sciatica, I have pain, I have migraines, etc. He would do what he does, and then he would pass them to me. And it was very nice to see how what he says affected them very strongly, because he knew exactly which buttons to press in people. And I took it to the body, is breathing, with using pain as a tool to teach about pain. And the combination was very impressive. And I spent time with him looking for, he was using a lot of plants that we used to go and collect together. And he was using fire for burning people. I called it Bedouin acupuncture, that instead of needles, they use something burning that leaves a burn and a scar. And there he taught me something very intelligent that his grandfather, etc., was doing thousands of years, is that when you create a burn and you make it draw pus, and you do something he showed me with leaves and how you make the burn, If you make the burn in a strategic place along an infection or inflammation in the body, the pus will slowly drain this away. So he actually was using an immune reaction, as we would say today in our modern language. He was stimulating the immune reaction of the body. Okay? He didn't think that he was healing, but he told me, I do this, the body heals. So this simple truth that also even doctors have to accept it. Antibiotic doesn't heal, it kills bacteria. If your body heals, it heals. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay? So we think of healing as something that is done to the body. And healing is not what is done to the body, because you can have the best healers, the best doctors, the best medicine, and you will die. So it doesn't mean that they heal you. We really have a misconception here that because you had a new heart or a new lung or whatever, you are healed. No, if your body refuses to accept it, you will die.
Totally. You talked before about how you made that shift. I heard in the past interview, the way that you were treating people was more as a healer at one point, and then yes, you began to transition. Yes, was that transition before the Bedouin?
No, it was after. It took a long time to realize this, because I was developing all kinds of touch technique, like footwork, a kind of touch on the feet. And I was still into what I'm doing, my energy, my focus, my intention does something to that person. What I was clear about was about what I was doing, but I was less clear about what it does. And the more I got clear that I'm actually provoking the body to do what it naturally does, the body constantly recuperates, rejuvenates, and tries to heal itself. So I found that actually what I'm doing is finding ways to support that, to wake it up if the person is exhausted and tired and has no energy, to find ways to collect the energy to wake the body up, to shift attention from mind to body, which is the basic for everything. There is a huge shift in attitude. I approach a body with my intention to do something for the body, like good intention. I want to help them. I don't want to suffer. I want them to feel better. So it's like goody intention that I come like that. But I come wanting to do something. And I can come wanting to feel what the body needs, what the body wants, not what I want. It's like getting a gift to somebody's birthday, what he wants or what you think he wants. Two different things. He tells you, I want this, and this is what he wants. Or you think, oh, he should have that, and you give him that. So it's the same kind of situation. Instead of finding out what does this body needs, what does this body wants that I will do, and I move from the healer, the therapist, the one that everybody should say, oh, wow, you know better, you can help, you're good, you're strong, to somebody that says, I don't know, I ask your body to show me. And when it shows me, I stop being the leader or the one responsible. I start being the servant, because I serve the body.
Now might be a nice time to paint a little picture for those who aren't familiar with the Grinberg method, how the first interactions would happen. So when someone comes in, I come into you and I have this neck pain. How does that begin to unfold?
So there is a process that is, we are calling it a learning process, in which you learn to shift attention to your body, you learn to let your body heal itself, and this is a learning that happens on a few levels, not just closing your eyes and waiting for something to happen. You are participating. So it starts with what we call an assessment through the feet. We look at feet, and we look at what does the gravity, what did it do to these feet? So if you look at a child's feet, you can see that it hardly marks, it's very flexible and it's very open. And for a long time, there is nothing that shows as lines and marks. You look at somebody older feet, you can see that the habits of how the body distributes the weight on the feet show, like if I constantly walk with my head backwards, okay, my toes have to rise up in order that I will not fall backwards. If I walk with my head forward, my toes compress on the floor. So this is just, my pelvis is pushed forward. Okay, I hardly walk on my heels. My pelvis is pushed backward. I walk mostly on my heels. Now, this is very large, general kind of understanding, but every shift you do in your body that is continuous or chronic will make a mark on the feet, because the feet are the foundation.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, if I came with this neck pain, you're saying that there's a habit of movement that maybe this has brought me into, and looking at the feet may help you understand a little bit more about that.
If you look at the toes, because the toes are the head and the shoulders from simple gravity, okay? You can see that one toe will be maybe in the air. One toe will climb over another toe. The difference between the thumbs will be that one is like that and one is like that. You can see if there is a constant twist in the neck, it will appear very clearly after a few months in the feet. It takes time, because let's say I got hit in the neck, I now walked a few months like this, then the feet after a month or two will start to show signs. After 6 months, there will be a change in structure of the feet. This is just momentums. If you learned enough about physics of momentums, okay, look, it's enough you raise your arm like this that you notice how you put your weight on the floor changes. Now, if you're anxious and you constantly compress your belly and you hardly breathe to your chest, this will also be appeared there. If you had a trauma somewhere and you're still doing a lot of efforts not to experience what was there, it will also appear. Because for everything that we experience, we use muscles, we use tendons, we use bones. We are using ourselves to disconnect from ourselves. And this appears in the feet. So the first meeting is this. And then we start to look at what is your aim. Okay, what do you want to achieve in this process? So you can come wanting to stop a pattern of, let's say, hesitation or shyness, or being anxious in social circumstances, or you had a severe trauma somewhere and you want to heal from that, or you're after surgery, or you have a chronic pain condition like migraines, low back pain, things that a huge percentage of the population have. So you come with a focus, something you want to achieve, to change, you have an aim. And then we start to look at how to do that. Now, all processes have a few ingredients that are always there, like how to deal with pain. You come to me, you know almost nothing about pain, except that you don't want it. This you're sure about, okay? And this everybody that comes, please take it away, okay? I'll pay you extra, etc. So the first thing is to learn to relax into pain. And this we teach by giving moderate pain. Moderate means that you don't have to act as if you're tortured, but that you can find, okay, it's painful, but I can relax, I can breathe, I can not escape into my mind, I can stay there. And what happens immediately is after 15 seconds of this, the pain reduced to half, because you stop pushing against it. Now, a lot of the chronic pain people have in their life is because they're pushing against a trauma, against fear, against something that they don't want to experience. If you think of how many things people don't want to experience. You don't want to experience guilt. You prefer not to be angry. You don't like fear. You hate pain. Okay? You can see that a lot of what is the human experience is unacceptable by people. Now, unacceptable not in their minds, because everybody can understand that you're going to be afraid and have pain in your life. Okay, it's enough to look at movies, okay? But the difference between understanding it and being able to experience it, this is what we teach. We teach how you can relax into fear.
To bring it to the neck example, you said the first session you're looking at the feet and understanding the feet, talking some and feeling it. And then the second session, if the goal is about pain, you said you induce pain a little bit with the touch.
Yes, but
is that right?
Not necessarily in the neck, because you are learning a concept, something that you can apply everywhere in the body. So many times to go to the place that has the most intense pain and try to provoke it there, is really not a good idea, because you'll meet there the most resistance, the most refusal, and there is no need to make the person suffer more. He's suffering enough. So I can teach you this close on the shoulder.
So you would usually push with
You're
thumb and
doing
touch
it
like
yourself. Now, if you move a bit to the right, yeah, that you have pain there.
that.
Press deep,
Yeah.
stronger, stronger. There you have the pain. Now, notice that you have a little pain. It's not much, but you already don't want it. So try to want it. Relax your shoulder, relax your jaw. Take a deep breath to the chest, and tell me what happened to the pain.
It softens.
A few more seconds and it's gone. That's the concept. Now you have to train in it and raise the intensity each time. And many times you have to repeat the same lessons in different areas, because pain in the jaw is not pain in the shoulder. Like tooth pain is not like headache. Okay? That's one of the strange things. We use a four-letter word to describe a world of colors and differences. I mean, belly pain and eye pain and tooth pain, and you broke your little toe. It's all incredible colors of pain that are very different. And in each one, your choice is, shall I apply this concept? Okay, I'll relax, I'll breathe, I will not find the pain now. If the pain is very, very intense, the chances that a beginner will manage to deal with it are low. But if I trained somebody, and I have people that I worked and trained 30 years on and off as students, etc., they can take pain like very few people can. To somebody that really trained in allowing pain and learning to transform it, to work with elbows and knees and heels is completely legitimate. They don't fight the pain. Now, the pain is never to damage, because there is another kind of pain that aims to damage. That's martial arts. I'm not practicing that. But the idea is to go to the pain, provoke it, notice how you are responding to it. You always respond negatively.
I have to ask you about this world of pain. I have felt the same thing, that it feels almost criminal to use pain to talk to all of the diversity of experiences. How have you managed to articulate a better vocabulary about different types of pain?
I must tell you that I didn't even try, because many times people come and say, I have pain. And then when I touch there, I don't find pain. I find other things. I find that they're very contracted and they cannot move. I find that there is a lot of fear from being close to this area. We have a few human experiences that are very common, but we manage with a four-letter word as if concluded. Love, fear, pain. Just notice four-letter words and very little to be said about them. You open Wikipedia and you look at what is fear. Okay, the last time I looked was a few years ago. It was an unpleasant feeling in the body. No, wow, fear, okay? Now, I wrote already at least 2 books, and I'm in the middle of the next one, that are very focused on fear, because it's fear and pain for me are the 2 major forces in humans' life that shape our attention and body. And the fact that we are so ignorant to ignore those powers and to be busy with other things, that let's understand it better, okay? Understanding never changed pain or never made you not afraid, okay? Because sensations and emotions are not understandable. They can only be experiential. The effort to understand those things and then verbalize it and conceptualize it is actually just an effort to disconnect yourself and not to experience what you're going to experience.
So there's multiple people, actually partly including myself, maybe you too, who have had the experience of reading something and having an internal shift. Early on with my pain, I was reading, there's a book by a famous ex-surgeon called Healing Back Pain. And it's all about the role of the mind in generating pain. Many people report after reading it
it's quite an old book, no, 20,
right.
30 years. Yeah, I read it
yeah.
in the past.
But
yeah,
so that's an example. And that seems to
it.
affect the pain directly when you read it too. So,
But wait a minute. When I
yeah,
talk about your response to pain,
hmm
a big part of it is what you do here.
right.
You can make it worse. Like, oh, I'm dying. I had hypochondriac clients that had a little sensation somewhere and it became in their mind a tumor. Okay? So
hmm
this is one direction to make things much worse. But you can have the other direction of managing to be silent and calm and focused. And by this, you reduce the tension in that area dramatically. So, in this way, you calm down this kind of running around in your head that is physical. Well, thinking is physical. I don't know what is mental, but thinking is physical. Now, if you think clean and clear, okay, and you're focused, a lot of the efforts that you do in your neck, your shoulders, your jaw, your eyes, you don't do them. You don't do them, you have less pain. It's so simple, nobody paid attention to it. We all the
Reminds me
time
of
look.
how the school children, often in classrooms, kids are taught to sit. And rather than solving the problem, it's sometimes easier to scrunch their eyes up and to grip their pen really hard. And then the teacher sees they're trying hard. And so it's okay. And it seems like that's a kind of a conditioning that happens in our environment too.
Yeah, try hard. And try hard, you become hard. And when you're hard, you have pain because we are soft creatures. Okay, bones are hard, the rest is soft. Okay, so yeah, you try. What is to be hard? You harden yourself. You create a kind of tension, a kind of something rigid in your body, and then you're hard. But remember, hard things are very fragile.
So, in your experience, is pain always accompanied with tension, physical tension?
The response to pain, yes.
Mm.
The response to pain because you don't want it. And not wanting it means contracting. Resisting is contracting. Not breathing is contracting. So, yes, in a way, you try to make yourself smaller, more compact, and more hard. And for some reason, you believe that it's helping you, but in reality, it just gets the pain worse.
So, I research pain and have been reading for a few years now the literature on pain science. There's very little that actually talks explicitly about the link between tension and pain. But what I hear you saying is that wherever there's persistent pain, there's a chronic pain. If you look closely, there will be tension too.
Unavoidable. Look, the pain from being completely without any kind of tension, there is pain in that, okay? But it's a very different kind of pain.
What kind of pain is that?
The pain of emptiness. Let's say you feel empty in your heart or empty in some emotional way. It's not painful. We're not supposed to be empty. We're supposed to be full of life. Okay. And when we are empty, it's incredibly painful. So it can be a body that has no energy and it's not relaxed, it's collapsed. Okay. It's hypotonus, not hypertonus. Okay. But most people will do an effort. Those that don't, maybe don't have the energy to make an effort.
This to me feels like a big open question. Still, in my experience, in the periods of numbness, when I attune more closely, I do find a subtle contraction that is keeping the life force coming through. But I don't know if that's true for everyone. And I think it's very hard to know.
I worked with really many thousands of people, and I never saw a pain that didn't create a response of contraction, of tension, of not breathing, of disconnecting, trying to avoid and not feel it. I mean, I meet students of mine that started to learn this 30 years ago. When they're on the table and I touch them, many times there is very little pain. And when there is, they very easily relax the place and the pain transforms. The more you train in it, like everything else, you get better in it. And it's a skill. It's something that if you put your mind to it and your body in it, then you're going to get good at it. It's a skill your body has. Because when I worked with primitives and I was in jungles or deserts, I once sued a boy that had his scalp open, 52 stitches. He was sitting on a big rock outside and I was sewing him slowly, slowly. He was about 10 years old. He was sitting there totally relaxed. I don't know if you ever been sewed 52 stitches in your head. It's really very painful. So he was sitting there totally relaxed. I was talking to him, joking. He didn't know that he should make a drama. He didn't know that he should scream and cry and ask for mommy. He didn't know any of this. He felt pain, but just the pain. There was no response. He was thanking me for doing this, okay, and there was like no drama. Okay, I also saw Bedouin women working in the field and suddenly bending down and throwing out a baby. Okay, with no drama, no water, no doctors and nurses. The more we got complicated and more in our minds, we lost a lot of things that the body knows how to do. Look, I had enough years doing it that I can look back 50 years ago and I can see that people had much less chronic pain and people healed quicker and people were less anxious and worried and tense like it's today. Okay, I think the problems of our culture that creates levels of stress and being busy with our minds, with understanding, and all the time knowing what to do, how to do, when to do, all this kind of takes away our attention to something that is magical. It's our body, and it's powerful, and it heals itself. Because when it gets the right conditions, and the right conditions are silence, breathing, muscle relaxation, and very focused attention to what the body does. You create those conditions, most self-produced suffering can be stopped. Most, okay? Because in this methodology, it all depends on the client. Okay? Usually, if you think of doctors, they don't talk about, oh, I had a good client. They first talk about patients. And a good patient is somebody that doesn't move, doesn't talk, does what it is told, and disappears quickly. For me, a good client is somebody that comes wanting to learn, very attentive, practices what he learns in his daily life. This is a good client.
Yes, totally. When I think about learning skills in general, there are different obstacles that people bump into. In the people who come to you, what do you see as often the barriers that different people face?
Look, people come with a level of attention that with young people like you, okay, today is when I start to teach a group like that, I can see that in the beginning, the span of attention is about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. They watch me, I can see their eyes looking out, they are attentive, and after 2 minutes, they went somewhere.
Yeah. To
the past, to the future, to an alternate reality, to whatever. And then after a few minutes, oops, they came back. So it's like an old neon lamp that turns on, turns off, okay, and this is how they start. The more they learn to pay attention through their bodies and use their bodies as what is attentive, not the mind, okay, their span of attention grows. By the end of third year, they can listen to a full hour, a full demonstration, and be there the whole time.
Okay, now, so short attention span is one of the first big obstacles.
Yes. Second is the traditions of the culture. Like most people come wanting to help. It's like a good thing to want to help. So there is a big difference in attitude with I come to work with you, to teach you, and I come to take away your pain. And usually there is this, I want to help people, which is many times genuine and beautiful, but irrelevant.
Yeah. I should alter or preface that question. I mean the people who have pain who come to the method and to you. If it's like a musical instrument, they might have a problem because they can't practice regularly, or they might have a problem because they are too afraid. I'm curious about those types of obstacles that you've encountered.
No, afraid of pain, it's many people. Don't touch this, it's too much, etc. So you just do it slower and gentler. It's all a question of volumes and speed, okay, that can be adapted to the person. The fear, look, some people are afraid to be touched. Our culture made touch into something mad, especially in your country, okay? that the touch was connected to prostitution, all kinds of things that the culture produces, but touch is the earliest form of communication between people. If you think about people a million years ago, the language may have had 2 words or 3, okay, but touch, the way to feel somebody, the way to interact with somebody, the more we are sophisticated in our language and AI that are language models, okay, you can see that we moved into the language, but we forgot the experience. So many people, for them to lie on a table, a working table, to relax, to breathe, to feel somebody touches them is an incredible experience. Now, it's very different than massage that you know, okay, I'm going to close my eyes, I hope I will fall asleep, and I hope they will. This is something completely different. You are asked to participate. My client lies on the table. I touch him somewhere, but then comes instructions or what we call verbal guidance. You feel the point I touch? Yes. Contract there. I involve him, okay? Feel the point. Contract deliberately there. Feel how you're doing it, okay? Feel what happens to the pain. Now don't contract and breathe. And then he starts to realize that behind a lot of his pains, it's a contraction that he wasn't aware of, that if he learns to produce it, he can be responsible for stopping it. Because the whole idea is we carry patterns of contraction and efforts in our bodies that we have to stop to be well.
Right.
To learn to stop something, unless you know how it's done, you cannot stop it.
So when these people come to you and you begin to teach, have you noticed profiles or common sets of patterns of how people move through the pain? Like, what have you noticed in terms of the common structures or the patterns that people bring?
Yeah, the most common ways of responding is to cut above the pain. As an example, I have pain in my knee. I do a split in my attention and in my movement in my hip. It's a joint above. I have pain in the low back. Okay, I am trying to move the weight of the legs and my pelvis higher. Okay, I have a pain in the elbow. I try to cut away here, not to feel. So what does it mean to cut away? Is that I magically reduce my ability to feel there. Okay, this happens, people are not aware of it, but let's say I hurt myself here, the pain is persistent, consistent a few days, I start to pull my attention back into my brain. I don't want to feel it. And not wanting to feel it, you see, the body is not a biochemical machine. It's an attentive, alive, aware creature.
Yes.
You actually want not to feel something, there is a good chance that it will make you not feel something. So it's not, I'm not talking about autosuggestion or self-hypnosis or giving yourself all kinds of confirmations, affirmations. This is mind games. I'm talking about how it's painful, and it's painful now, and 2 hours more and 5 hours more, and I already start to make efforts here not to feel, and by contracting muscles in my shoulder.
Can you say a bit more about that? That's super interesting. What you just said about autosuggestion and self-hypnosis. What makes those mind games and different from this approach?
Because they're bodiless.
So
Look,
progressive relaxation, for example, your arms are getting heavier, whatnot.
Look, where do you want to relax? If you want to relax in your mind, because many times people want the mind to shut up, okay? They want peace, they want quiet, and they confuse it somehow with what happens in their body, but it's the mind that doesn't relax. So those things are mind games. The mind excites itself and then the mind relaxes itself, okay? It's games. But if you want to relax your body, you have to be there. You have to be present in it. You have to be aware of it. The concept of relaxation doesn't make your muscles relax.
Yeah, I completely resonate with what you're saying, but I'm curious to hear a little bit more. With progressive relaxation, which for the record, I also haven't experienced great results with, you get people to say, imagine your hand is heavy and hot, and you do it with both arms, and then you eventually teach it. What I hear you saying is that you can actually do this in a way that's not you're not fully there. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes. And I doubt you'll get lasting results, and I doubt you develop a skill. Look, let's say you have this possibility of doing it through your mind, or I'm there and I can touch you. The difference in how long will it take to give results will be amazing, because I will touch your pain. You will talk about your pain with yourself about it, and yes, you probably will manage to reduce some of the anti-pain response in your body, because you convince yourself or believe that you are relaxing. So at least part of you does relax. But, and here I saw this with many yoga teachers that I worked with, that they come very flexible. They can do all kinds of very nice movements. But when I touched their muscles, they were all very long muscles, but very contracted, very painful and very hard, which they normally don't feel.
Yeah. If you're talking to someone, say there's someone you can only talk to through your voice or through the camera, say it's someone on the other side of the world where there's none of the teachers, what would you suggest to them? They come to you, I have this lower back pain, and I know I think you can help.
Part of this methodology is to do this through the internet. Since Corona, okay? Before Corona, I would never think of doing internet sessions. Corona, because we couldn't do anything, and I had clients that couldn't come, and I couldn't go to them, etc.
Yeah.
I started to develop a way to just use instructions and some stuff that the person does, using things to create pressure and weight on the body, like take a stone, put it here, breathe to the feeling of pressure. So I found a lot of gimmicks and tricks that actually exchange somehow, but I was doing it with trained people. So the best would be to train and learn to do it in your body, and afterwards in an internet sessions, okay, you actually use the skills this person already learned and use them to continue further. Because if I give instructions to a client of mine through the internet, okay, so I tell him, notice your left shoulder, breathe more to the left side of the chest, and now contract it stronger and stronger and stronger, let go of it, breathe again, and feel what happens in the arm. So actually, I'm teaching them to drop the blocks or the splits, as you want to call it, in the way, and that they will notice the flow. If they are practitioners and they know how to touch, many times I ask them to touch themselves. Go to these 2 points, for example, okay? In Corona, I worked a lot with people with breathing problems. Go in there and go deep, in between the ribs. You feel your ribs there? Go between the ribs. There is a place that if you breathe deeply now, you feel that the pain goes deep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you continue to breathe in it, you drop your shoulders, you continue to breathe in there, and another deep, bigger, bigger. Now you're talking. Great. And now notice what happened to the pain. There is a good chance that now you feel some kind of flow of energy in your arm. And if you take a deeper breath into your chest, you'll feel that you have half a liter of air more.
Because that pressure alerted you to all of the subtle contraction that's happening.
In my language, it made you aware and attentive there. The
Right.
pain was an incentive, okay?
Yeah.
Something that made you more focused. Your willingness to learn, let's say that if you really had an issue there, your willingness to learn, the intensity of what you'll experience would be much more.
Right.
So, yeah, it's possible to do it. I do it not often, but when it's relevant. And the question is how much the person that I train is able to follow instructions, how much attention he already has. This is why I look at every person as an individual.
Yeah.
They may have the same medical conditions, the same diagnosis, the same medications, the same treatment. But for me, I meet two different people. They do different things with their attention and body. And I have to approach them as they are.
Where this question's coming from is in working with, I've begun to develop my own hypotheses from various teachers working with people with pain. It strikes me that there's how many million people with chronic pain. 800 million, maybe 20% of the population. The vast majority of them will never have someone to touch and to feel and support them. And so what I'm interested in, part of the reason for this whole podcast and my research, is also how far can you get with just something that can be done through the internet? And my hypothesis is that we can be much further than what people imagine or assume. I think it's always going to be better to have a skilled person, for sure, for most cases. But it feels like there's an open question and a huge wave of development that can happen around this.
There is a group of my students that trained from the beginning of Corona in giving internet sessions. But again, it depends on the client.
Yes. And so they have different bottlenecks. I've experienced this myself. The people who are most attentive, who are able to follow instructions, like you're saying, experience the best results. But there's a lot of people who are not like that. Like a lot of the young people who have the attention span wandering, it's very hard to do things even for 1 week consistently. So
I agree.
So the thing that I think is interesting is that there are ways to make it easier, and how easy can we make it without making it less effective is a very interesting question to me.
Yes, and look, I for years didn't want to make it easy.
Yeah.
Because I think that to learn about pain or fear, to really learn, to really grow, to be able to really expand your attention energy, it can never be easy.
Yes.
The idea of easy is a mind idea, because nothing is easy. To learn a skill, to evolve in a skill, to grow up, to deal with your old traumas and pain and fear. Now, it's not that you shouldn't have easy time and easy hours and easy vacation, but to really look at evolution or healing and think that it should be easy. Sorry, I never met it like this. None of the people that came to really have a deep struggle with something could find it easy. Because if it was easy and simple, the body would have done it already.
I'm not interested in making the whole thing easy, I guess, as much as efficient or accessible, you can say.
Accessible, yeah, this I agree.
And the big question here is how to bring it to people also. And we have a culture in which if something seems hard, or if it seems like it might, require a certain amount of effort, there is a automatic reflex of like, why don't I just go and take some pills instead? And so I think that there are ways that you can quickly get a taste that there's something really big here. And that beginning accessibility brings you and gives you a little bit more, your cup grows a little bit bigger so you can have a little bit more poured in. And then the gradual expansion. That's my hypothesis and that's my vision. I should ask you actually, what is your hope for the future of this work and for the future of how pain is addressed?
I thought a lot about this because for me what is missing is education, is that it's learned in... Look, if you look at what children learn in school, okay, and I remember this was many years ago, but I still remember that I found nothing interesting in school. It was all what grown-ups wanted me to learn. But what was I dealing with in reality? I was dealing with the pain of growing up and dealing with all kinds of issues, okay, including sicknesses, accidents, illnesses, whatever. And I was dealing with fear. Fear of my teachers, fear of my colleagues, fear of the bullies, fear of the junkies outside, fear in reality. Fear of lack of money, fear of, you understand, fear of not being popular, fear of being attacked, fear. So everybody behaves and acts as if there is no fear. Only after the fact, it was frightening. But it's like before, everybody behaves like there is no fear. And I think about it. If I could have learned when I was 6 years old how to deal with my fear, I would save myself something like 20, 30 years of suffering because I didn't know how to deal with my fear. And as a young man, I tried to be hard and strong and overcome it and push it down and all of this. This is what my culture was doing all around me, and this is what I automatically did. And it damaged me very badly. And all I had to learn is how to agree to be afraid. Now, I have students with children that are teaching their children from very young age. You're afraid. Okay, let's be afraid together. And they teach them how to do it. Lie down, open your body, breathe, relax, feel the fear moving in your body. And you can see 5-year-olds shaking from fear, but 10 minutes later getting up, laughing, and running around, not taking it heavily, seriously, dramatically, not needing help.
Wow. That brings up another thing that I wanted to ask, the shaking. When I hear the shaking, you've come across probably the TRE, the trauma release exercises. Have these other approaches to somatics been resonant with
First,
your own
I
approach?
must confess that I look at other methods rarely because I have a lot of work to do within my own. This is one. Second,
Right.
most methods come from mind to body, and I come from body to body. It's like vegetarian and a grill steak restaurant. We don't sit together well in this sense. Okay, this is one. Second, the shaking that is done voluntarily
It's
is
very
not the
natural.
shaking I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that the body does without any interference and
Right.
without control. So
Right.
the shaking, I can tell you how it started for me. Many, many years ago, I worked with a client. She was very tense, and I managed to teach her to relax. And the more she relaxed, the more she breathed, the more her body started to tremble and shake
Yeah.
and started to sweat. And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't understand that because I was already a mature person and I knew about fear what men know about fear, like overcome it, ignore it, jump above it, etc.
Right.
And then I realized after some time that she just agreed to be afraid. If I look at any animal that is afraid, you can see that if it manages to escape and run and hide somewhere,
Yes.
trembles. I see it on cats and dogs, on rabbits, but they tremble. Now, what happens? Fear is an incredible energy that comes basically to save your life, to give you the power, the clarity, the speed in order to whatever is necessary to survive. And it warns you of your danger. Now, if you build up a lot of it
Right.
and you don't burn it, it accumulates in your body. So your
And
body
one way it
wants,
comes out is the shaking. That
yeah,
totally makes
it
sense.
wants to release it. And actually, the shaking produces even a deeper level of relaxation.
So for you, it sounds like the influence was from going to visit these indigenous teachers and healers and these methods, and then also from Zen. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if there's other maybe specific teachers or methods that you felt. I mean, obviously it's independent. There's been many years and you developed it. But for
But the
me,
people,
there's a dialogue that everyone is engaged in.
the one of the people that influenced me a lot was Alan Watts,
Mm,
another American from 60s, 70s.
yeah.
He is the most current speaker about attention in words. He was really amazing in the way he describes the way humans use their attention. And I loved him very much. So yes, I was doing Zen meditation already at 16, and I had a little, they would call it a little awakening. The first time I did this, I went into a space that was totally empty, totally full, and infinite. It was like sheer luck or beginner's luck. Okay, and it took another 15 years to be able to come back to the same place. But the first time I did this Zen meditation, I realized that the way I perceive myself and the universe is illusion, that there is something a hell of a lot more real. But to reach there, you either have to be lucky or over years to accumulate a lot of attention and energy that allows you to reach to that place. Yes, and I was very influenced by Zen, by Alan Watts, by other people, 60s, 70s. The thing is that I tried to find pragmatic physical actions, not understanding. For me, for many years, understanding, realization is fantastic things, but very little power to move the rest. If I look at humans and I think of the 4 levels of being that I see, it's thinking, talking, it's doing, muscles, behavior, expression, It's feeling, emotion, fear, rage, anger, guilt, etc. And underneath there is needs, okay? To eat, to shit, to pee, to live, okay? All of those layers of being have to be touched in order to create a powerful enough experience that the whole will move. Because what we do usually is either take our heads and we try with our heads to pull the rest of the wagon. Hey, and it's like using a small little donkey with a huge, huge wagon full of history and the history of my parents and the history of their parents,
Yes, yes.
and the donkey cannot move it.
To
So
come,
if you add to it other parts of yourself, okay,
right.
you have a better chance to move forward.
To come back to the vision for the future, one thing you mentioned for the future is education of children, how to respond to fear and also pain. How has that shaped out for you? And what more do you have as the vision?
My work is very small. Okay? I trained a few thousand practitioners. Some of them are already old, some of them retired, some of them stopped. You have to be very lucky to meet one of my students that does his work well. It's really an incredible gift to be able to have somebody that can teach you those things. And it's incredibly rare, and it's really worthwhile in a sense that usually people will try to get rid of your pain, to get rid of your fear, to fix you, to arrange you. And here there is something totally different that needs to teach you, not to make you. And there is, I can tell you about my new project. Next year,
Please.
I'm going to do with my students a project I call the Trauma Project. And that is to work with a big group of my students, that each one of them will bring in some clients that had a trauma in the past, and we together really and dealing with pain and fear and developing this. On top of it, I trained a group of teachers that are now next year will start to teach in a few more countries. So there is a school soon open in Holland and another one in Italy. There is more and more people that want to teach it and people that want to learn it. It's growing. I was never very focused on making it real in the world. I was very focused on making it real in terms of working manuals, teaching material, understanding and clarifying the concept myself, training the people and the teachers. So now, at my age, I want to really give it much more into the world. Like this interview that you're doing with me 10 years ago wouldn't happen. I would be too busy and wanting to do other things. Now, part of what I'm doing is really trying to be the advocate of this work. And I really think, look, I'm getting sessions from the Grinberg method, from somebody that I taught 30 years ago. And today I got an internet session from her with something that was very difficult for me to digest and deal with. And in 45 minutes, my experience changed totally, okay? And I feel a hell of a lot better and younger and focused. And I gain from that. Now, she's using the same things. The thing is that many times you need somebody else that will look at you, somebody else that breaks the internal vision you have and the beliefs you have about yourself and makes you face something that you didn't want to face before. So the one-on-one has a lot of power because you have to come out of yourself to meet somebody else, for both client and practitioner. So I want to increase this. This is why I have so much activity in social media. A few years ago, I didn't have one video on the internet.
And
Now
that's how I found you. Well, actually, I found you because there was someone who was treated by a student of yours who had a great experience, and I told her about my pain work. And I saw your videos and I saw the interview, and I was touched and I felt a strong resonance with what you were talking about. So, speaking for myself, but also the listeners, if people feel a resonance with what you're saying, how can we support the work of the Grinberg method and your work?
In hopefully end of September, beginning of October, we'll have a new website. And it will contain a lot, because the last website we had was 20 years ago. As I told you, I never really paid attention to how it goes outside, and now I do. So we're going to have a new website with a lot of stuff and videos and information. Also ways to communicate with teachers and practitioners. And I don't know what you saw, but I can tell you that in YouTube, the Grinberg Method site, YouTube
Has
channel,
a lot of
sorry,
videos. Yeah.
a
I'll sh-
lot of
They're
videos.
wonderful content. So I'll definitely link the YouTube channel, your website, grinbergmethod.com.
Yes.
And as the new website comes up, I can also share that. Yeah, this has been really wonderful. I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was very good for me too.
And I will be in contact. I will share what has happened and all the links. Yeah, we'll look forward to hearing from you soon.
Good. And let's talk again soon.